marquee. They probably not only one of the most photographed signs in Chicago, but probably in all of sports. All right, you've seen it in so many films, specifically Blues Brothers or Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But it was first installed in 1934. All right, and when it was put up, originally it was actually green and gold. Now, a lot of people from Chicago here, I'm assuming, you know those colors are ugly and stupid, and we hate those because it's the colors of the Green Bay Packers, right? We actually had a tenant here that took quite an exception to that color combination. That was George Halas and his Chicago Bears, because they played their whole football games here for 50 years, 1920 until 1970. So definitely had to change those colors. Went to a cubby blue at first, and then 1960s, that iconic red that you guys see today. So yeah, definitely get an opportunity to grab some pictures of that when you guys come back out. So we're gonna get started and head inside. So again, if you have your bags open and your tickets ready, and we'll head inside and get you guys into the restroom. Yeah, anywhere of these clothes right here.
Bring it on! J-Bot!
Guys, right now you're sitting in a 102-year-old ballpark. Okay, it's the second oldest in all of baseball. Anyone know what the first oldest or the oldest ballpark is?
Fenway.
Yes, sir. Fenway Park, exactly, in Boston, where the Sox play. All right, that was built in 1912. All right, so we got 1912 and 1914 right here. Does anybody know what the third oldest ballpark in baseball is? A little harder. What's that? Dodger Stadium. Exactly. Los Angeles, California, Chavez Ravine, 1962. All right? Really puts things into perspective. We got 1912, 1914, then 1962. And then in the National League, you got to go all the way to 1995. Coors Field, opening day, Colorado Rockies. Yeah, so it's really kind of puts the exclamation point on why this place is so special. And you guys are pretty good with those questions, but what a lot of people don't know is that when this ballpark was built in 1914, it was not built for the Chicago Cubs. It actually wasn't built for anybody in the American or National League. Our story goes all the way back to 1913 in the city of Chicago. All right, at that time there were 3 baseball teams in the city. All right, we had the Cubs, but they were playing on the west side of Chicago at the West Side Grounds. All right, if you're from the Chicago area, you know Chicago. Think about where the United Center is today on the west side. That's kind of equivalent to where the West Side Grounds was. We also had the Chicago White Sox. They were playing at 35th Street, right across the street from where they play today. At that time, it was called Comiskey Park. That was built in 1900. Okay, but we also had a third team, and it was a brand new team in a brand new league, actually. Right, the Federal League, and that league was in direct competition with the American and National League. The Federal League was started by about 6, 7 guys. One of those guys' name was Charlie Weeghman. All right, not a lot of people know about Charlie, but you guys will remember Charlie when you leave today. Charlie was a business entrepreneur, specifically in the restaurant business. Okay, he actually is a rags to riches story. Got wealthy really, really quickly. All right, grew up Northwest Indiana, and came over to Chicago, and like I said, got wealthy very young. His dream, however, was always to own a professional baseball team. And he tried to buy the Cubs, tried to buy the St. Louis Cardinals, in fact, but it was a problem. That time, Major Leagues, really old money. Right? They did not like Charlie. He was newly wealthy. He was really outspoken too, kind of brash. You guys know who Mark Cuban is? Yeah, kind of picture that when you picture Charlie. All right, everyone wanted to know Charlie. Pardon me. Now, Charlie said, "Hey, if you guys aren't going to have me in the American National League, well, I'm going to get involved in this Federal League." And he started his team in 1913. It was called the Federals, right, or the Chi Feds for short. And when they started their season in 1913, they were playing just a little south of here at the University of DePaul. All right, if you guys actually rode the Red Line here, the Red Line train, you passed right by where the field they used to play was at. Right at Fullerton Avenue, where the DePaul Blue Team, its women's softball team plays. Right, that field's still there and still getting used to play ball. So that field, it didn't look actually all that much from how it looks today. Right, you just had a field, a couple seats, that was it. So Charlie knew that if he was going to get taken seriously by these professional leagues, and if he was going to get the revenue that he needed, all right, to compete, and he was going to have his own ballpark, or a real ballpark. So he came to this location in the early spring of 1914. Now at that time in this city, this area was like the boonies. Okay, it wasn't even part of Chicago city limits. It was called Lakeview Township. But after the Great Chicago Fire in 1871, a lot of the population of the city started moving to the north side of Chicago. Okay, so this area started to get a lot more populated. You had the train line that started running in 1892. All right, and also there were trolley lines that started getting put up on Clark Street right outside the ballpark. So you're starting to get a lot more traffic, a lot more people coming up here. Eventually the city annexes it, becomes part of Chicago, and Charlie comes here in 1914. Pardon me. Now he really likes this location for a couple reasons. One, that public transportation. You got the trolleys, you got the train line, all right? Great way to get people to the ballpark. Also, it was on the north side of Chicago. You already got a team on the west side. You got a team on the south side. Well, you can't put a team on the east side. Right? You got a big lake. So this was the perfect location for his ballpark. Now, this field right here was an empty lot. It was actually an abandoned Lutheran seminary, not cemetery. Okay, don't go back to KC and say there's dead bodies buried underneath the field here. Okay, only thing buried here are hopes and dreams of Cubs fans, right? Now, the thing is, the Lutherans moved out because of what I said. It was starting to get way too crowded up here. So Charlie says, it's a perfect spot for a ballpark. And he signs a 99-year lease in 1914, and he spends $250,000, hires 500 workers, and in just over 5 weeks, builds his ballpark. All right, yeah, a lot of wide eyes on that. Can't even get a building permit in the city of Chicago to put a water fountain in 5 weeks. All right, yeah, he's got a ballpark. Now, I don't want you guys to think that it looked anything like this. All right, we got, the seats go just beyond dugout to dugout, right up to this row that we're standing in right now. They pop a roof on top, seats around 14,000. You got Weeghman Park. All right, and in 1914, those Federals play their first season at Weeghman Park, and they do pretty well actually. They get second place out of the 8 teams in the Federal League. Charlie's not satisfied though. Right, he wants more butts in the seats. He's got a lot to prove to those other owners, right? That said, you know, that he couldn't be a part of it. So Charlie comes up with this idea. You know, he kind of, you know, I said he was a businessman, but he was actually kind of a promotional genius, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But he says, hey, I think a great way to get people more invested in my team is to give them an opportunity to rename the team. Right? He didn't think the Federals in the Federal League was very creative. Right? It's like a team in the National League being called the Nationals. It's just silly. Still got it, guys. So he holds a contest, a vote. He puts little paper ballots on all the seats in the park, uses the local newspapers, and has everyone write in what they would like the new team to be called. So when they tally up all those votes, they got the new team name. You guys excited? The Chicago Chickens. Charlie's not having that. Okay, not having his team called the Chickens. So in the grand tradition in Chicago of tampering with votes, we went with the second most popular choice. That was the Chicago Whales. All right, I think it makes perfect sense. Lake Michigan, just about 3/4 of a mile from here. All the whales in Lake Michigan, right, guys? The scrimshaw art in all the museums and the great. No, there's no whales in Lake Michigan. What we're thinking, though, the term whale being like a person with a lot of influence or a lot of power, a big shot. We think Charlie pictured himself like that. So, goes with the whales. those whales, to get my corny joke out of the way, they have a whale of a season. All right, in 1915, they win the Federal League Championship. All right, and that's a big deal because that's the only championship that has been won at this ballpark. Actually, yeah. So go Whales. Well, the Whales are actually the reigning Federal League champs as well because the league immediately goes bankrupt after that 1916 or 1915 season. They were paying their players way too much money to compete with these other leagues, and they actually get involved with, in a lawsuit as well with the American and National League. One of the reasons why is Charlie said specifically, hey, you guys are playing a World Series, well, you're not playing us. So you can't technically be the world champs unless you're playing the teams from the Federal League as well. They got involved in a lawsuit, yeah, ended up taking all of the funds away from the league, so they had to shut down. So Charlie is kind of left in a little bit of a conundrum because he's got a brand new ballpark, he's got no team to play in it, right? He had his dream of owning a professional baseball team, so he was not done yet. At the time, the Chicago Cubs were owned by the Taft family in Cincinnati, Ohio. Right, name probably rings a bell because William Howard Taft, our former president, is from that family. Actually, William Howard Taft, for you guys trivia buffs out there, the fattest president to ever be in the White House. They actually had to build him a custom bathtub in the White House so he could fit in it. But that's beside the point. The Tafts owned the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds at the same time. Right, and they were very happy owning the two teams. So Charlie knew that if he was going to purchase those Cubs, he was going to need more money because he did not have enough. So he got together a group of investors, right? 9 other entrepreneurs in the city of Chicago, some of the most well-known investors and entrepreneurs in the city. We got guys like Armour from Armour Meat Packing. All right, we got Roebuck from Sears Roebuck. All right, and then we got a guy named William Wrigley Jr. All right. Probably recognize that name. That's kind of how this all ties in together. Now, quick question, little quiz. Who knows how the Wrigley family got so wealthy, how they got their start in business? No. What's that? Gum, right. Did I just hear someone say soap? Wow, all right. Well, usually I get to do a little joke about how nobody knew that, but yeah, this guy knows. Baking powder and soap, actually, not gum. But there was a new invention at the time called chicle, or chewing gum. They used to put a little package of it on the outside of their soap and baking powder as a promotional item. Well, people loved the gum, hated the baking powder. So they would actually just take the gum, throw out the baking powder. William Wrigley said that's probably the way we should go. A lot cheaper to make as well. Well, that gum was actually banana flavored. I know that sounds delicious, but we know it today as juicy fruit. All right, so yeah, Wrigley's still the largest manufacturer of gum in the world. So, but yeah, so we got Wrigley involved in that purchase of the team. So they head down to Cincinnati, Ohio in 1916 with $500,000. It's the equivalent of just over $11 million today. So quite a purse, actually. They purchased the Chicago Cubs. They move them into Weeghman Park in 1916. That means this season, you guys have probably seen it on the patches on the players this year. It's the 100th anniversary of the Chicago Cubs playing here at Clark and Addison. So really a big deal.